I finally found my cord for my camera. Correction, Anthony found the cord for my camera.
Fucking right I did.
So now I can film proper sit-down booktube videos again instead of just putting out my reading vlogs. Because I'm sure there's people who don't like reading vlogs and would like actual regular booktube videos. Anyway, I am doing my favorite books of 2017 video. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 favorite books. These are all 5-star reads. I had more books that I read in 2017 that were also 5-star reads, but these ones I feel like stood out the most, and I didn't want to do a video of like 20 books, so. Also, I read 52 books last year. Go me. These are in no particular order except for like the last 5, I think, or probably. I think I have a top 5 favorite. So, besides those 5, I'm just going to start on basically whatever is closest to me. So the first book is Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin. I read this for, I forget which readathon, but I read it during a readathon, and it was really, really good. I was expecting to enjoy it. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I loved the storytelling. I loved the characters. I loved just the way everything kind of came together, and obviously I loved these books, that's why they're on this video. Anyway, this book is about a girl who falls down the stairs and hits her head and gets amnesia, and she doesn't remember the last 3 years of her life, I believe. So she doesn't remember her boyfriend, she doesn't remember her best friend, she doesn't remember why she's in yearbook, she doesn't understand why she likes it. She's basically a completely different person than what she remembers, and it's about her dealing with that and kind of getting to know her friends again and her family again, and it's really good. The next book on the list is The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson, which is the 3rd book in the Shades of London series, which is about a girl at a boarding school in England who kind of gets in touch with the ghost world somehow and is solving murders and stuff, and it's fantastic. This book I feel like was, I want to say tied with the first one. I feel like it's a little hard to say which one was better, the 3rd one or the first one, because they were both really good for completely different reasons. But this one had so much crazy stuff and a whole bunch of new information that you learned, and I loved it so much. I loved the characters and the relationship between the characters and how the characters grew and all the crazy things that happened. The next one here is First Life by Gina Showalter, which is about a world where everyone gets 2 lives, and the first life is like our lives, and then after you die you go into your second life, which is basically your eternal life, and there's 2 different places that you can go. There's 2 different like second life places that you can go to, and you have to choose which one you're going to go to, and if you don't, you go to this weird limbo place. And there are people who want certain people to join their side, and both sides are after this one girl, and she is kind of being tugged to different sides by 2 different guys, one from each side, and it's kind of cliche, but it was so much fun, and I flew through it. It was exciting. It doesn't seem like it could be exciting. It seems like not much action can come from a story like that, but it did, and it was great. Great! I'm super excited to read the second one. I wanted to read it in paperback so that it matches. My next books are Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did at all. I was really skeptical going into it. It was one of my first high fantasy books, which I still feel like this is kind of like light high fantasy, I guess. It's like beginner fantasy, I don't know, because it's not super heavy. Anyway, I loved them both, and Kale is my new book boyfriend. Oh, and in case you didn't know, it's just basically about an assassin, a badass assassin girl. My next book is Every Day by David Levithan. I originally was going to include the companion novel to this as well, Another Day, but then I decided to just talk about this one, which is about this being named A who always wakes up in a different body. And A falls in love with a girl at the beginning of the book when they are occupying this girl's boyfriend's body, and the book is basically about A kind of figuring out whether or not they should tell this girl about them, and being in love with her, and it's really good. You get a glimpse into so many different people's lives, And I think it's just super interesting because you get so many different like people perspectives, but also through the eyes of the same person, which is just super interesting. And I just loved the concept, and I loved the love story in it. And there's a movie based on this book coming out soon, and the trailer looks absolutely adorable. Next here on my list is The 1000th Floor and The Dazzling Heights by Katharine McGee. These books are so good. The 1000th Floor takes place in the future, mostly in an apartment building that is 1,000 floors high, and it's not just an apartment building, it's basically its own city. It has different neighborhoods, and it has like different apartments, it has schools, it has restaurants, it has shops, it has gyms, everything. And it follows 5 different characters. Some of them live in the rich parts of the building, and some of them live in the lower parts of the building, but basically at the very beginning of the book, somebody falls off the roof and dies, and then it rewinds 3 months or 5 months, I can't remember, and it follows 5 different characters, and it just builds up to the beginning where someone fell off the roof to find out who fell off and why and how and who's involved, and it's super good and super atmospheric. I loved the descriptions of the settings, and I loved pretty much all of the characters. The ones that I didn't love, I loved to hate them, I guess. And the second book follows the same characters, except there is a new character perspective in it. I can't remember if there were 1 or 2 new character perspectives, but there is at least 1 new character in it, and somebody else dies. It's the same concept, where somebody dies but you don't know who or why or how, and then it rewinds, and then we follow all the characters to find out what happened, and they're really good. If you like drama, if you like the drama, these books are for you. Okay, we're getting to my top 5 now. My 5th favorite book that I read in 2017 was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I adored this book. I really appreciated the main character's story and internal monologue. I really liked the way that it was done, with like 2 sides of the person's mind like fighting against each other, and I really liked the ending. I thought it was a very cute story, and also the dialogue was hilarious. This is about a girl with anxiety and OCD, and it's about her dealing with that, and also the fact that some billionaire fugitive has run away, but she used to know his son, so her friends convince her to get back in touch with him so that they can try and find his billionaire fugitive father so that they can get the reward money that's out for him, and it's good. My 4th favorite book was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This book was wonderful. I feel like I can't use another word to describe it. I have to say wonderful. It is about a 10-year-old boy who has had a lot of surgeries to fix a lot of problems in his face. So his face is not structured properly, and at first glance I guess he could look pretty scary, and it is about him going into just a mainstream school instead of being homeschooled for the first time, and making friends and learning more about, I guess, what it's like to be different, and how just because you look different doesn't mean you are different, and about choosing kindness. And it is an excellent story for children, teenagers, and adults. I think everyone should read it. Also, the movie adaptation was perfection. My 3rd favorite book was Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. I flew through this book. It was super excellent. It's about a person named Riley who is gender fluid, which means that sometimes Riley feels like a girl and sometimes Riley feels like a boy. And Riley is writing an anonymous blog about what it's like to be gender fluid, and they think that maybe possibly someone at their school has figured out that it's them, and that they're going to out them. They're afraid they're going to out them. And it's just about Riley dealing with that and making new friends because they start out at a new school. And I really, really liked just the descriptors of how Riley felt when they were feeling dysphoric, and I liked their friends in it, and there was a few things that happened in it that like really made my heart beat like really fast. Like it really, really made me feel like I was in the character's situation, so I thought it was really, really well written. And I also thought that for the most part, it was a fairly lighthearted story, so it was easy to read quickly without it getting too intense or anything like that. But I just really, really enjoyed it and really appreciated the story. My second favorite book that I read in 2017 was When It's Real by Aaron Watt, who I have also discovered after reading this and reviewing it that Aaron Watt is actually two different people. So it's pretty cool. It's a dual perspective story, which makes sense now. I thought the two perspectives were super, super, super well done because the two different voices were so distinct. But it makes sense now. If it was written by two different people, they each probably did a character's perspective. But it's basically about a non-famous person and a famous person not accidentally falling in love. And I'm a sucker for stories like these. I love stories about regular people getting together with famous people. It warms my heart so much. And I also flew through this book. I also read this book kind of in a difficult period of my life, and this book really, really helped me escape. It might be one of the reasons why I feel so strongly towards it. I don't know if maybe I read it during a regular time in my life, I guess, if I would have maybe not enjoyed it quite as much or not just felt so in love with it, but I did. I was so in love with it. I loved the characters and the growth of the characters. I felt like both of the main characters grew from the beginning to the end of the story so much. And I appreciated a lot of the stuff that happened in it and the things that they talked about, the way their conversations went. I thought a lot of it was actually pretty mature as well. And it seems silly, I feel like, to have my second favorite book be about a love story just between a famous person and a not famous person, but it was really good. And my favorite book of 2017 was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, or Zappia. I'm sorry, I don't know which one it is, but anyway, Eliza and Her Monsters, which is about a girl in high school who has her own webcomic that is actually incredibly popular. It has millions of followers and she makes a lot of money off of it, but she keeps her identity secret, so nobody who follows the comic knows who the author and artist is. And her parents know that she has this webcomic, but they don't realize just how big it is. And she ends up meeting a new boy at her school who just so happens to be the most famous fan fiction writer for her comic. And she's afraid to tell him that she is the creator of this comic, and they form this friendship, and things kind of spiral out of control a little bit. I related to Eliza in this so hard. So hard. Besides the fact that her work is actually famous, a lot of the stuff that she went through was me. And there were a couple parts that made me cry because it's me. And that's one of the reasons why I love this book so very, very much. And I also loved a lot of the quotes from her comics and the artwork, because you get to see a little bit of that in it. It's like, what it is basically is it shows the artwork from her comic accompanied by the fan fiction of the guy who writes the fan fiction for her comics. I'm pretty sure that's what happens when you see the artwork from it. Most of the time at least. But I loved all the snippets from it and the way it related to her life and everybody else's lives, and I loved the way things unraveled, and I thought a lot of it was very, very realistic, and I adored this book so very much, and I think it should be everyone's favorite book of the year. I mean, if it's your favorite book of all time, that's great. But it should at least be everyone's favorite book of the year they read it in, because, man, I loved it. Those are all my favorite books of 2017. I hope I can edit it down to not be so long. And let me know what your favorite books were of 2017 in the comments, and we can talk and such, and it'll be a good time. And I guess that's all. So just, I don't know, stay tuned for another video, because I'm going to film another one right now.